Hello and welcome to the Astrology and Spirituality show for week commencing the 10th of January with Alyssa and Patrick Arundell. How are you today? How's the tooth?
The tooth is fine. A trip to the dentist saw no problem, so we're...
Yeah, it was a little bit, the aniseed ball had actually probably...
A little tiny chip, we think, perhaps, but yeah.
But the tooth not essentially cracked, and the dentist was very reassuring, and it meant we've actually now signed up with a dentist in where we are rather than continuing to pay where we were. So that's one good thing out of the way.
Yeah, worked out well, really.
Yeah, indeed. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us. So what's the astrology news this week? Well, as we come into this new week, there is a quarter moon, which was right at the end of last week in the sign of Aries, squaring up with the sun in Capricorn. So our need to be individualistic and impulsive through the moon in Aries is challenged by the need to conform to the status quo, very Capricornian energy. So if we are a more creative or individual type of person, but we still need to collaborate, say, with the bank manager or a business advisor or a local enterprise agency, or if it's a more personal plan, we need to bring someone older in the family with us. We just need to be conscious of how they may view our plan. But also, as we start this week, we still have a square between the ruler of Aries, Mars, and Neptune. Now, Mars is in the Buccaneering sign of Sagittarius, brilliant for travel, widening our horizons, and of course that's not necessarily an easy thing to do with the latest wave of Omicron. However, Neptune in the 12th house can almost amplify or exaggerate something that we feel niggled around an essential truth, because I think Mars in Sagittarius can see us quite desirous of kind of seeing our viewpoint, but there can be a swirling mist that distorts things through Neptune. So we're going into battle this week about anything important. It's critical to get our facts straight. And of course, midweek Mercury slams on the brakes and goes into a retrograde. It's actually going to back up and go into the sign of Capricorn by the 27th of this month, I think. And it has, of course, been in shadow since the last 3 days of last year in terms of the pre-shadow. So communication with this Mars-Neptune square Mercury retrograde in the sector of friendships, group associations and long-term plans means clarity could be at a premium. But as we get to the end of this week, so the sun aligns with Pluto, and this is preparing us for the full moon in Cancer, which is going to occur next Monday, which will confront this duo. Now, Pluto is a mighty influence for a tiny orb, if you like. And so anything to do with change, whether it's internal change or practical physical change, is going to be very much to the fore. And of course, the sign of Capricorn can be about goals, ambition, status, work, our connection to the world at large. It can also be to do with more personal goals and ambitions. But Pluto, of course, can bring things to an end as well as rebirth things. So it's very much a phoenix planet, particularly when it links to the sun. So it depends what's going on in your personal nativity, how much this will impact on you. But I think for us all, especially for those people whose businesses or jobs have been severely affected by the latest changes to the virus, obviously trying to understand the crazy world we live in, which is moving so quickly, is going to be part of how we can use the transformational energies of Pluto in a good way, but it still may be a little bit dislocating. So that's the astrology. What about in terms of the Hermetic wheel? Where are we up to this week?
Well, this week we start a brand new chapter completely. No overlaps for the start of this week, and it is the Four of Pentacles, the Four of Coins. It can see us really worrying about our finances or our job security, this card. If we look at the image of the card, there's a guy there and he's clutching this pentacle to his chest. He doesn't want to let it go. So it could be in some ways that we're in a career that we're not happy with, but we're worrying about leaving it because we don't know what that would mean for our security. It could be that we have an expensive item like an expensive ring or a car, but we never want to wear it or take it out in fear of damaging or losing it. we just have to be very careful with this card to not get into the state of mind that money is everything. You know, a lot of people say, well, money's the root of all evil. But in the Bible, it doesn't actually say that. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And so we all need money to function and to, you know, exchange goods and to live. But when we get into a state of mind where we're worrying so much about it, or we get into even a greed about it, it's not good for our well-being, our emotional or spiritual well-being. So just releasing a little bit, if we can, some concerns over our future destiny and just allowing ourselves to be a bit more present might help take some of that burden off this week.
Right, gotcha. But people with who got the Four of Pentacles in an outcome in a tarot reading, that could be that they could still do quite well financially.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's important to know that we have to also give our time and energy to our friendships, maybe even to our family, maybe even to our health and well-being. There are other areas of our life that need support and need looking at, not just our finances.
Nurturing.
So it's just finding that balance between our goals, ambitions, but also not forgetting the other things that are important.
Isn't it amazing how that fits together with the astrology though? Because
it really is,
you know, Pluto can be about power, and it can be about, you know, being so desirous of power that, you know, the only motive, especially in Capricorn, is material wealth and status. And that's what the full moon in Cancer is going to challenge next week. By the way, if you want to watch the deep dive video that I've already done for that, please see the link beneath this video. Now, in terms of a word for the week, interesting, this one. So we had a few, but this is the one you've gone for.
Yeah, Yasmin came up with the word productivity. And she was particularly talking about the myth of productivity. What does that mean? And it's something that we've been having conversations about ourselves this week, isn't it? Productivity doesn't just mean that we have to constantly be doing something. Because if that's the case and there is no plan or outcome, we can get burnout. We can just feel like we're not making any progress.
On a treadmill.
Yeah, on a treadmill. It's not just about constantly doing something. And I think with social media and all these, you know, hashtags be a boss or hashtag make a million, or, you know, it's all can get a bit on top of us, particularly if we're starting our own business and we're going to, you know, seminars and classes. Getting all that information is so vital and important to anything we do in life. But we also have to see how things fit into our own lives and our own circumstances. So it's not like a one size fits all. Each of our productivity is going to be a bit different based on our what we want out of life.
In other words, you could work extremely hard, but if it's efficient in terms of giving you a return, that then for the rest of the time you can really enjoy your hobbies or your more spiritual pursuits, that actually is good productivity. It's when we're sort of working very hard and not really feeling that we're getting much for it. And I'd like to give a shout out. Caroline wrote in from last week's show saying thank you so much for mentoring care workers. She feels that they're now completely off the radar, very burnt out emotionally, spiritually and physically from all the hard work of the last 2 years. And once more it shows how quickly things go on to other agendas. You know, it's also worth noticing in the United Kingdom that 150,000 people have now died of COVID. So it's been an awful situation for so many people, so many families. But think of all the health workers that have been dealing with that. It has just been so tough. So productivity for them is probably working 50, 60 hours a week. For some care workers who may not be working in the health service per se, more in, say, residential homes, for example, they may be on the minimum wage in Britain. So their productivity could be extraordinarily high in terms of how much they give themselves as human beings. But what it gains them in terms of finance is probably not very great. And yet the risk to them and their families has been massive. So that's obviously very unproductive, or been a very unproductive time. So what we need to do obviously is to have more respect for those people who provide the very, very vital links in the support services for us all.
So I think when anyone posts on social media or does a video, we all have to be conscious that we all have different circumstances, that we're not just all on the same trajectory, and be conscious and aware and empathetic towards other people's situations. It's not just about what productivity means for a CEO of a massive company. It's different for everybody.
Exactly. And on the Mercury retrograde front, I'm one of those astrologers who doesn't think Mercury retrograde in itself is necessarily always a bad thing. So for example, if you have it in your natal horoscope, it may well make you more thoughtful. But say you had Mercury retrograde in the 5th house in Leo, it could make you more thoughtful but also sensationally creative. If you had Mercury retrograde in a sign it governed, like Virgo or Mercury, it could make you very effective in the precision of Virgo and the ability to communicate succinctly through Gemini, because it would make you think deeper. But then we have to go deeper into the chart. What other aspects does it forge? Does it have Saturn impact in it? Now that could well be an issue. If you had Saturn opposite a natal Mercury retrograde, could make someone prone to being perhaps a little bit pessimistic, feeling their nervous energy isn't always the best. So you always have to look at the big picture. But in a more positive context, Mercury retrograde is a time to rethink, recalibrate. So the sign of Aquarius is our connection to others. We have Saturn there, which is retracting potentially, even though it's the co-regent of Aquarius. And Jupiter is obviously the planet of growth, has moved on. So Mercury retrograde here could be, look, I haven't spoken to these folks. I didn't get a card from so-and-so at Christmas. I didn't catch up. Why was that? Maybe it's very busy with work or with other demands. So Mercury retrograde will be a good time to reconnect, calibrate, retune our connections to others. So see Mercury retrograde as an opportunity, not just as a thing that can snare up our post, or see a piece of technology go awry, as it can do because my mouse is packed in. Or not the one running around the house, I mean the one on my computer. So in terms of our winner of the birthday free prize draw, we do have one, but we're changing the format, because what we want to do is I'm going to do an analysis of people's, just the winner's birth chart, because we feel that the solar return was just a reflection really of what was going on that I'd already explained that week. So it was, talking about making sure that things are productive. We didn't feel that was a productive use of our time to explain something twice really. So what I would say is the winner this week is Guialana G, and Guialana was born in Lima in Peru, and that was at 5:30 a.m. on the 15th of January 1996. So Guialana has the sun in Capricorn, but she also had Neptune on the sun when she was born, and both are in the first house because the ascendant is 18 degrees in the sign of Capricorn too. Now this means that this is a person with a very Capricornian nature, of course, but it also means because she has Mercury, Juno, the asteroid of relating, Mercury and Mars in a conjunction in Aquarius that are all governed by Saturn too, and she has Jupiter just tucked up in the 12th house in the sign of Capricorn. This is a person with a very Saturnian chart. So responsibility is going to be very much the 4 in your situation. You also have the moon high in the sky in your 10th house, along with your north node. Again, very Capricornian. And the moon actually is in the sign of Scorpio. So you're someone with a perceptive energy. You're able to get beneath the surface and understand things. But you also have your midpoint in Sagittarius in the 12th house. So I think you're quite a psychologically aware person with that Neptune on the sun, very sensitive, could be very compassionate, but it's also very important to work on your identity because Neptune can dissolve. So a bit of a taster there. You do actually have a gorgeous link between the sun and Saturn, the ruler of the sun's location, and that trine between the Sun and Saturn is reflected between the Ascendant and Saturn as well in the 3rd house. So I think if you say something, if you've given it thought, you really mean it. You're crisp and to the point. So your Chiron, just an interesting one, is quite high in the sky, nearly on your 10th house, but in the 9th. I'm not sure if perhaps you need to work on your self-belief a little bit in terms of your intellectual qualities, because I actually think other people think you're very bright and you could be a teacher or a coach to them, but there may be something deep inside of you that feels that you're not quite up to the mark. And you also have Venus in the sign of Pisces, which is a lovely location for Venus, and Jupiter is sat right on it at the moment. So for your birthday, because Venus is in your 2nd house, I think money can come to you this year, but you are going through a big transformation, because the Sun-Pluto conjunction that we have this week is basically reflected onto your chart in a very powerful way. So it's almost like a rebirth is going on for you at the moment, Guiliana. So thank you very much for entering. If you'd like to enter for the show for week commencing the 17th, please feel you can. So your birthday must be from the 17th of January through to the 23rd, I feel. We just need your time, date and place, not where you're living now, because I'm not doing the solar return anymore. And in terms of the modality, what cards are you going for this week?
I thought we'd go for something a bit fun and light this week.
Okay.
It's the Magical Unicorn Oracle cards. And they're just really nice, uplifting, happy. So let's give these a shuffle and see what spiritual message comes up for us this week. Okay, the word on this card is exercise.
Oh, well, yes.
It says walk, run, swim, or otherwise move your body. This will give you more energy and potentially happiness.
Can we relate that to yesterday?
Yes, well, yesterday, I was really tired, and part of my brain was telling me just sit by, the fire with a quilt and do nothing. I was tired. But then another part of me was saying, you need to get out, you need that exercise and that fresh air. So we went to the beach, and it was so blowy and windy. I'll insert a picture here.
It was bitter.
It was so bitter, but it was so worth it. We did a couple of miles.
2.5.
2.5, yes. And we felt
Because you
really
checked
good.
on your phone last night, so I was very impressed
that
we made it that far. It's not enough for us, because
No.
we spend far too much time sitting,
Yes.
and we're really conscious of this issue of productivity, because we need to be fresher. And when you're constantly working and constantly feel you're behind, it's not actually the best place to be, particularly for this kind of work. So we need to get much more organised, to be honest. And of course, we've changed one home where we live, sold it. Then we've moved here. This had, 40 years of possessions in it that we had to very sensitively go through. We've had some building work done here. We're having changes done next week to the kitchen. So it's been an awful lot to deal with. And of course, moving to a completely different culture and country. So we need to catch up a little bit and get on top of things. So productivity is something that was really in keeping with where we are. So, and if you do have a word for the week that you'd like to share for next week, or any other concept you'd like us to discuss, please drop this underneath the video. But going back to your
I
exercise
think exercise can give us a chance to get productive. If we're stuck in this cycle, no inspiration, no motivation, we know we need to be doing something, we know we need to change something, and you can sit at the computer all day long and not come up with an idea. But you have to going out, getting the exercise, getting the blood flowing, doing what humans should be doing, which is getting outside, outdoors. Can give us that motivation and inspiration.
Get the endorphins popping.
Yeah, get those endorphins popping. Bring our moods
Somebody
up.
actually went into the sea yesterday. It was a woman with her 2 young children.
Very brave.
And they went in just in their cosets.
Yeah, I heard the scream.
They weren't in there long,
the
but
beach.
my word, they really deserve credit, because it wouldn't be the
so
sea
cold.
temperature alone, it was the wind.
It was so
absolutely
cold.
biting.
Yeah, but it was fun. And so getting out and just, exercise doesn't have to be this big.
So you're gonna do an exercise video to show the folks soon, then?
Oh, imagine! Yeah, Astro Fit.
Well, thank you so much for all your lovely, kind comments as always, your subscriptions. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please press that or click on that subscription button. So it means that every time we drop a video, you get to see it. Please see the full moon video beneath this video. And thank you too for our patrons. We have been trying to keep you a little more informed of what's been going on. We really appreciate your company and your gift. And for now, from the A team, it is
Goodbye from me.
and it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.